Chapter 48-55. Everything is unbelievable. Dreamlike, but true to the extreme, so that Jian Wushuang can't believe which side is the reality. It turns out that I really haven't left. Looking at the real scene in front of him, he realized in a trance that when he was talking with the black robe in the cloud, there were not a few people around him. Is it the eyes of this jade head that dragged me into that illusion? Jian Wushuang pondered, reaching for the front and the crystal cover sinking and disappearing. The tip of the finger came with a gentle touch, and at the same time it conveyed a dead silence without the breath of life. I lived in Yang from the east. He murmured softly, just 6 words, as clear as it was engraved in his mind. Who would be the black robe in the illusion, and why would he say that to him? Is it Xian Yi, or is it sent by the old deity to warn? Jian Wushuang has no intention to move, the more so, the closer he feels to the truth. When you come to Dianhuan, you must be right. Everything will be learned here. He stretched out his hand and retrieved the jade head without any spiritual breath, and carefully put it in the bowl of the bottle. He was relieved. In just a few years, he was unconsciously caught in 2 ridiculous dreams, which made him more cautious. The first time was in the midst of a big day, and was dragged into a strange fantasy world inexplicably. The second time just happened. Both scenes are extremely real, as if they are foreshadowing something. Everything seems to be irrelevant, but it is like a prison cage, covered by layers. After doing all of this, Jian Wushuang, with the names of Qing Qing, Zhao Ting, and Wei Liujia, left the Van Gogh Wushuang auction house. Chuan Qiu and Kui Jing stayed to check the auction house's income. The celestial domain in which the ancient auction house Wushuang was located originally had a name called Xijing, which belonged to the jurisdiction of a celestial ancestor that encompassed 7 celestial domains. This Tianzong is called immortal territory, and in the eyes of the vast expanse of the Grand Division, although it is not a top force, it is also a hegemony. In the Feast of the Heavenly Court, there was a Fujie Yangxian holding a dust, and then died in the hands of Jian Wushuang and the Little Emperor. It was a distinguished elder in that fairy field. It is even more rumored that Zhong Tian, the master of his fairyland, is likely to break through to Dianxian in several years. In this way, the forces of immortal territory developed in a gentle upward trend, and even had a lot of friction with the 6 emperor realms of the Little Emperor. After returning from the auction house to the little solitary sky in the 6-day realm, Jian Wushuang hurriedly took the jade head taken out of the bowl and placed it on the desktop to check it, trying to find some clues. Subsequently, Chen Qing also returned to Xiao Gutian, his face full of joy, carrying a bulging bag in his hand. "Brother Sword, look at what I brought you back." He grinned and placed the bag in his hand on the case in front of Jian Wufang. "This is..." Jian Wushuang looked at him. Chen Qing smiled secretly, and then opened the bag, revealing a disheveled hair. His eyes no longer have any shiny head. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows, already recognizing this head, the guy who hit him in the previous Van Gogh Wushuang auction house. "You killed..." "It wasn't me who killed it, it was Xiao Dijun who beheaded him personally." Chen Qing scratched his head. "Xiao Dijun said that to insult you is to insult him, so he cut off his head and sent it to the Sword Brothers to indemnify him." Jian Wushuang secretly sighed, and he understood that although this kid was flying, he was not enough to kill. But the Little Emperor took this opportunity to send him directly after the killing, in fact, to pay for the crime not long ago. This kid died unjustly. Finally, after glancing at his dead head, Jian Wushuang waved it to Chen Qing's hands. "Got it, find a mountain forest to bury him." Chen Qing nodded, then turned and flew out of the hall. Di Qing then sat down, watching him playfully and said, "It looks like the Little Emperor is treating you well." "It's a normal relationship," Jian Wushuang said softly. Di Qing no longer said much, looking for a place to sleep easily when he looked up. The battle between Dami Tian and Chang Fu caused him to lose another life, both in terms of strength and state, and before it was fully restored, Di Qing would be in a state of weakness. And he had 9 real lives, and now there are only 7 left. Although Di Qing didn't show it, Jian Wushuang still felt his loneliness and disappointment. Time is passing slowly. A few decades later, a messenger suddenly came to the Little Emperor's heavenly palace. The messenger wore a green robe and depicted a fairy with gold wire on his chest. The situation was quite extraordinary. He came to the Tiangong and met the little emperor. His face was neither humble nor overbearing. His Royal Highness, Zhongshan, the son of Heavenly Sect of Immortal Territory, was invited to the WNGU Wushuang auction house half a month ago. It has been half a month now. I don't know if His Royal Highness the Little Emperor can tell where Zhongshan is. I will go back and have an account with the suzerain. Lying lazily on the bed, Xiao Dejuan glanced at him sideways, and then waved his palm. Hurry, a little son of Tianzong, how do I know where he is? The Qingpao messenger looked calm and said, His Royal Highness surely knows that no one knows that the ancient auction house was established by His Royal Highness. Zhongshan's jurisdiction disappeared, and there must be a connection. Xiao Dijun heard the words, slowly sat up from the hua bed, his eyes gradually cold. Even if the auction house is now planned into my jurisdiction, do you think I will remember the names of some cats and dogs? The face of the Qingpao messenger changed slightly, and there was a touch of humiliation in the eyes of Yu Kanchu www.ukanshu.com crossing. Are you threatening me? The little emperor stood up, surging with extreme strength, and the indescribable coercion made the emperor of the green robe directly kneel in the temple with a thump. The humiliation in his eyes was even worse, but he didn't dare to show it. No, it's just that sect master Aiko is eager. If Zhongshan can't be seen again, I'm afraid something will be done. Do something? Do you want to be a dog for Da Mitian, or do you want to stand against this seat? The little emperor came to him slowly, and the sneer in his eyes was even worse. Do you think a small fairy domain Tianzong can put pressure on this seat? Why don't you tell me that he was the one who killed himself, and his head was cut off? Why do you immortal Tianzong? The green robe messenger shuddered, his face suddenly pale, and he couldn't dare to raise his head to look at the little emperor. Chapter 4856. He couldn't believe that the son of immortal territory had been killed, but the initiator was still so indifferent that he didn't take immortal territory at all. His Royal Highness, aren't you afraid that the entire immortal realm Tianzong will fight you with blood? The green robe messenger said tremblingly, with a painful expression in his eyes. The little emperor smiled. Xiu said that you are a fairy in Tianxian, that is, there are 10 more, why am I afraid? Okay, since you are not afraid, then. Without finishing his sentence, he was clamped by the thin purple robe in the dark, and then directly smashed Xianyuan. Like the same hand holding fly ash, the emperor of the green robe fell. It's really noisy. The little emperor slowly turned around and lay down on the bed again. He propped his head in one hand, his other hand lurched into his arms, and took out a pill that glowed with colorful rainbow. It took a long time to say, Mom, how do you have this pill, Jian Wushuang? The thin purple robe stepped forward slowly. His Royal Highness, everyone has their own secrets, don't ask until he tells you. Got it, you have to call Wushuang and discuss the countermeasures together. Although I don't take it in the eyes of the Celestial Emperor Tianzong, it is inevitable to want a battle. I want to minimize the loss. The thin purple robe promised, and then turned away. Looking at the mysterious Danmaru in his hand, Xiao Dijun fell silent. Wushuang, when can I see through your mind? As the foggy night approached, Jian Wushuang stepped into the air, and his shoulders were soaked by drops of mist and rain. Brother Jian, you are here. The little emperor seemed to have been waiting for a long time, and he walked to him with a large black feather cloak, and at the same time, he was going to put it on. Jian Wushuang prevented his behavior, but took Dalu and put it in his hands. He went straight to the theme. The kid you beheaded is the son of Tianzong from a fairyland? Yes, Xiao Dijun nodded. The power of Tianzong in the fairyland is pretty good in the eyes of the big division. After several years of development, Yangxian and Yangding are very many. He said that he had told Jian Wushuang the connection between the ins and outs of the matter and Dami Tian. In the end, he looked at Jian Wushuang. If this is not completely defeated this time, I'm afraid Zhong Tian will lead the entire fairy field and throw it to the grandson of the sun. Jian Wushuang didn't open his mouth, it seemed to be thinking about something. If this war starts, we must make plans to completely destroy the celestial realm Tianzong. Yes, once the war starts, it means declaring war on me, and I cannot and will not tolerate it. Xiao Dejuan said, gently putting his palm on his arm, Brother Jian, help me once. Okay. Jian Wushuang responded. Killing Zhongshun is the critical point of the outbreak of war. No matter what the little emperor thought, it was for him. The little emperor heard the words and smiled, arching his hands. Thank you, Zhenxiong. When? Slowly, maybe half a year, and soon will be several months. We have to make preparations early. He said, my seat is Yangxian, being intercepted again and again. Wasted. So, I want to temporarily invite Brother Jian to take the position of Datiangwan, and crush them all into scum. Jian Wushuang listened, just wanted to reject this title, and was blocked by Xiaodijun. Brother Jian, please take up the post of Datiangwan, it is only temporary. It is responsible for the control of 60 Yangxian, not the position of Datiangwan. This battle is over, you can step down at any time. Well, I will be there then. Jian Wushuang nodded, if there is nothing, I will go. Brother Jian, what happened to me the other day is wrong, and I am going to indemnify you today. The little emperor said, suddenly pulled out a soft sword around his waist, and then slashed to the left arm. The sword did not fall, and was blocked by the sword Wushuang. If you have the strength, you will respond more in the following crisis. It is inevitable that the sword will be injured. If you stick to this again, you will have no demeanor. After he finished speaking, he turned and left Tiangong. Looking at the back of Jian Wushuang's departure, Xiao Emperor's eyes flashed an unknown meaning. For a while, he looked down at the wrist of his right hand, and had a rather strange feeling, like a kind of induction. Several months passed, but the 6-day realm of peace was also caught in some kind of turmoil, and the dynamism in the void was a little agitated. Nearly half a year later, dozens of powerful bodies like streamers flew from the void. Then in front of the void in the 6-sky realm, the dozens of figures began to use the force of force to quickly outline a ripple in the void. That's constructing a fairy array that can be sent on a large scale. Standing above the dome of the heavenly palace in Degushan, the little emperor stood with his hands on his back, and behind him stood nearly 60 imposing immortals, and the top army that covered the sky like black mist. These are his details. Please Datiangwan come. He condensed. Your Highness, Zhen Tiangwan is here. The thin purple robe whispered. Heaven and earth are still, and the 5 bodies are breaking through the fairy cloud and reaching. All Yangxian and Ding Xiu's eyes were attracted. As the leader of Jian Wushuang, dressed in a black shirt ranger, Ma Yuzhen is full of perseverance and indifference. Behind him, Chen Qing, Chuanqiu, Kui Jing, and Wei Liujia stood side by side, all of which had the tendency of Yuanzhu Yuezhi. This is Datiangwan, who was decided by the little emperor a few days ago. It looks too immature, right? No, our entire 6-day realm, haven't we ever established the position of Datiangwan, and Xiaodijun has never set a precedent. Regardless of what he does, then the battlefield will be clear, and if he can become a big official, how could he be a mediocre? Hearing the whispering in his ear, Jian Wushuang did not care, and quickly went to the little emperor. I've seen Zhen Tiangwan, nearly 60 Yangxian, and countless top repairs at the same time loudly, sounded Zhou Xiao. Faced with such a situation, Jian Wushuang is at ease, and he has seen it seriously. Little emperor smiled, then stretched out his palm and pointed forward. Brother Jian, look at it. Looking through the eyes, I saw that in front of the void portal of the 6th heaven realm, one side of the celestial array was outlined and condensed. As soon as this fairy array comes out, it must be the battle of the power of heaven. With the completion of the cohesion of the fairy array, a total of more than 30 Yangxian who hit the front station, at the same time release the Yang force, urge the fairy array. The beam of light leads to the sky as if a dusty sky gate was opened. With the rise of countless Huamangs, the army of top repairs like black clouds came out of the fairy array, and the intention of killing was almost solid. The little emperor shouted loudly, from now on, all Yangxian here must obey Jian Tiangwan's order. If there is a violation, die on this battlefield. Promise. All Yangxian promised, and the atmosphere of the void was solemn. Chapter 48-57. This super fairyland Tianzong, which spans several heavens and has accumulated for many years, has a very terrible background. It can be seen by the courage to fight the son of the emperor. With the cloud-like top repair and the continuous appearance of dozens of Yangxian, it can be expected that this will be an endless situation. Then there will be brother Luo Jian, fight with me. Xiao Dejuan whispered. Jian Wushuang nodded his head, his eyes looked forward. With countless top repairs and Yangxian stepping out of the fairy array, the void has become a battlefield. When the fairy array was about to close, there was a straddle mount riding a Tianma, holding a towering figure of a golden gun. With his appearance, the indescribable trend is rising. That is the master of the celestial realm, Zhong Tian. Long ago, it was the peak of Yangxian. Xiao Dejuan said softly. Jian Wushuang nodded, and then he no longer hesitated, his feet walked in the air, like a star, running forward. Afterwards, Chen Qing and others carried all Yangxian together and rushed outside the portal of the Sixth Heaven realm. One step into the void, the violent gang wind ripped to the ground. The majestic figure sitting on top of Tianzhu also stepped into the air. Without saying a word, the arm holding the golden gun flicked a full circle, like a bow and arrow, and suddenly threw the golden gun. The golden gun trembles, coming out of the air, and the goal is directed at the unparalleled sword, 1,000,000 miles. Jian Wushuang's gaze was fixed, and his breath was steep. Then he raised his right hand and pointed out with a finger. Fairy style, a little mountain and river. It seems that there is a power beyond the reach of the supreme god peak, combined with the fierce surging power of the giant water, and the blue color and the black color coexist, surging at Jian Wushuang's fingertips, turning into a party. The two collided, and an unparalleled martyrdom broke out. At this moment, both Yang Xian and Ding Xiu subconsciously covered their eyes with their arms. The golden gun was violent and unstoppable like a dragon, but after touching that layer of enchantment, it could no longer move forward. Despite the martyrdom, everything is within the controllable range of Jian Wushuang. As Guanghua dispersed, the golden spear finally fell into his hands. Zhong Tian, the main body of the immortal Tianzong, looked at this scene with dignified eyes. He underestimated his enemies, and thought to come up and kill a lot of Yangxian, increasing his morale, but he never expected that Yangxian could catch his blow, and it seemed a little bit. No injuries were received. You know, his shot is enough to penetrate a common heaven. Even if Yangxian in the same realm can only avoid the sharp edge, Yangxian has never dared to face it. But now, not only did his blow not work, but he was caught. This Yangxian who can stand at the forefront is absolutely extraordinary. Looking at the spear still trembling in his hand, Jian Wushuang said loudly, "If you only have this strength, go back." Zhong Tian's face sank, and the painful murderous opportunity appeared in his eyes. Go back. Who will return my son Zhong Shen's life? Even today, even if I'm struggling to die, I will let my son taste the price, and as a result of Yongzi Yang, you stubborn rat, come out to see this seat, and pay for my son's life. With a loud explosion, Gongzi Yang's figure followed, and stood side by side with Jian Wushuang. He looked at Zhong Tian with a smile. Only stupid people will do stupid things. I have beaten you secretly how many times? You should be clear, but never minded. The reason why your son Zhong Shen will have today is not only inseparable from his own blame, but also inseparable from your actions. Zhong Tianwen said with pain, but even then, you shouldn't kill him. Fu Jie was in the death of heaven, and I endured it, but the result of Zhong Shen's death must be up and down in my fairyland, and you never die. Little Emperor slowly raised the corner of his mouth. Well then, I have been waiting for a long time this day. I want to see how the guys who are eager to correct the dogs for the sons, how hard they bite. Zhong Tian was very angry and smiled. No, today, even if I die, I will take your son to be buried, he said, suddenly withdrawing the real sword hanging from his waist. All the orders from the immortal realm, all the forces to kill the Master Xian, one will not stay. Void concussion, battle begins. Almost at the same time, Jian Wushuang said loudly, all Yangxian scattered into 6 columns, follow me. More than 60 Yangxian diverged into 6 columns. Jian Wushuang leads the ranks, the young emperor's son Yang leads the ranks, Chen Qing, Chuanqiu, Kui Jing, and Wei Liujia each lead a rank. Sword Wushuang is like a real sword without a pair of swords, carrying the trend of crossing the ages, and ruthlessly entered the front of the battle. With both palms pushed horizontally, the unmatched Yang made nearly 20 Yangxian all retreat a few steps. Afterwards, Chen Qingzhen's sword approached, and a sword smashed a fairy's sauce, and at the same time, relying on the divine peak's figure, he ran into it without fear. Chuanqiu held a black light dagger, and he was blessed with an 8-armed puppet, which was also extremely fast. Kui Jing has always been fierce and aggressive. Even in the original Sand Devil Cave, he can be alone in the realm of ancestry. Now that he has been promoted to the position of Yangxian, the ferocity does not diminish the original, but it is in addition to Chen Qing, the most destructive existence. As for Wei Liujia, the realm's strength can only be recovered. Naturally, there is no benefit in this battle. If it is not for the help of the sword Wushuang from time to time, I am afraid that I will drink on the spot. In fact, at the beginning, Chen Qing and Spring and Autumn came together. Jian Wushuang did not agree to come down, but could not help but grind hard, and finally let them come. Due to the loss of his real life, Yi Qing's strength was far from being restored. He was placed in dormancy in Shaogushan by Jian Wushuang. Zhao Ting's uncontrollable factors were too great, so she did not let her come. Therefore, Jian Wushuang brought them for. The battle that has surpassed 100 Yangxian is extremely tragic. After the various moves came out, a fairy corpse with a broken fairy sauce fell. Jian Wushuang's destructive power is too strong, he just reached out a little, and died with a Yangxian. Under Dianxian, he is invincible. With the immortal blessings of a little mountain and river, no Yangxian can take a few rounds with Jian Wushuang. He is far more powerful than when attending the Feast of Heaven. He was moving forward firmly, behind him was the little emperor, accompanied by Chen Qing and others, full of unstoppable momentum. 5 fingers close together, directly killing a Yangxian who was standing in front of him, Jian Wushuang's eyes met with the majestic figure sitting on Tianju. If you don't want to die, just go back. His voice passed into Zhen Tian's ear through Zhen Tian's fight. Chapter 48-58. Zhong Tian, who was sitting on Tianju, shuddered slightly. He looked at the ranger young man who was walking towards him, and inexplicably felt an indescribable pressure. Jian Wushuang holds an invisible sword in his right hand, and a golden gun with a long length in his left hand. Even the Yangxian who are in chaos and slaying, either intentionally or unintentionally, moved away from this of killing, leaving a way out. But soon, Zhong Tian's eyes were filled with resentment and madness. My son Zhongshan died in such an unknown way, can't my father's revenge even be reported? Hugh said that his son is a child the emperor, even the emperor, I have to get a fair one today. This justice, you can't get it back, take the remaining forces and return to rest and recuperate. Jian Wushuang said lightly, Zhongshan's death, you deserve it. A good sin deserves it. Under the sky, who dares to condemn my son? He shouted in exasperation and slammed into the face of him. The big palm covered by Yanli smashed down, Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed slightly, and he stabbed directly in front of the gun. The two fought, stirring up layers of golden awns. A shot pierced the cover of the sky and covered the palm of the sky. His castration continued, his whole body seemed to be integrated with the long gun in his hand, with an imposing momentum, stabbed to Zhong Tian. Zhong Tian was shocked in his heart, and the majestic figure sitting on Tianma's back was almost subconsciously leaning back. The spear reached, and Tianju hissed upwards. It was just a shot, the sharp point of the gun, pierced through Tianma's thick neck, and finally the whole one did not enter. After trembling the tip of the gun from Zhong Tian's throat, he stopped completely. Tianju's last low hissing sound pushed Jinshan down into the void like a jade pillar. Zhong Tian's eyes were distressed. Fei left from Tianju's back, grasping the spear covered with red blood with one hand, and used a return carbine. Jian Wushuang resisted at the right time, and the violent roar resounded. Zhong Tian's powerful gun made Jian Wushuang feel the pain in the tiger's mouth. Don't be the accomplice of Gongzi Yang anymore, read that you are not the one who killed my son, and leave now. He held a spear and fought against Wushuang in front of him. The whole body could not bear the strength and shattered. One sword releases 3,000 sword intentions, the majestic and powerful sword style rises violently, and with an irresistible momentum, Zhong Tian is forced to retreat. Then the sword stood without a sword, his eyes calm and deep. Everyone who is on the battlefield has nothing but 2 possibilities, one is death and the other is victory. Which one do you think I will choose? Zhong Tianhe looked directly at him, not only looked dignified. He saw a lot in his eyes, perseverance, calmness, as if there was a feeling that everything was clear to the chest. This feeling is as if they are determined to eat. Who is this son? On this battlefield, even the Prince Yang, who is a prince, will listen to him. He had a hunch that if he continued to fight like this, the fairyland would eventually be fragmented. But Zhong Tian was not reconciled. The death of his son Zhongshen was like a thorn stabbed into his heart. There was only one son under his seat. Now that he is dead, how could he shake hands with the enemy who killed the child? He has made up his mind secretly, even if he fights to break the fairy field, he will also eat a piece of meat from the sun. No matter what kind of you are, today you will inevitably die here. Zhong Tian shouted angrily, holding a high gun in his hand. My celestial realm Tianzong, why fear this battle? Even if it all fell, there is also a lot of fire, and it goes back and forth. The high-pitched voice is like the sky thunder, which is injected into the heart of Yang Xian and Ding Xiu in each fairy field, and the most rapid counterattack has erupted suddenly. Even if the ancestor-level top repairs go to the top again, for Yang Xian who already has Xianyuan Xianzhen, they can't cause effective damage. So they made a move, nearly 100 people, formed a system of rushing to a group of Yangxian, and then spontaneously broke the source, and broke out a tragic martyrdom. For a time, the original disadvantage was relieved instantly. The void is completely shaken and broken. Thousands of people have broken the source of repair, and they have already detached their cognition. Even though Yangxian can still survive this martyrdom, but after being disturbed by the mind, it is extremely easy to be killed by Yangxian in the fairy field. The Yangxian from the Sixth Heaven realm, as well as the ancestors, began to suffer casualties. Nearly 10 Yangxian in the periphery all died out in an instant, and even the formation has been faintly washed down. Wushuang, the situation is urgent. Xiao Dijun passed on, anxiously. Jian Wushuang's eyes flicked, and a 7-star system circulated quietly between the eyebrows, and then his arms rose suddenly. As his palms lifted up, countless rugged mountains rose from the void without any signs. 1, 10, 100. Each of the Shanshan scattered the original ferocious fairy field Yangxian, or the top repair, and blocked it out, so that the Yangxian camp in the Sixth Heaven realm was breathed. Seeing this scene, Zhong Tian couldn't help but feel shocked. If the young immortal in front of him does not get rid of it, it will inevitably have a major impact on the entire fairyland. Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated, directly pointed the gun forward, and launched the most violent offensive towards Jian Wushuang. Handless invisible sword, Jian Wushuang walked slowly, facing Zhong Tian, who was even taller than Chen Qing. Like a giant, he had no fear. Wushuang Kendo, Xingge Hujianjian. The first form, star. When this revealing and shining pattern lights up, it shows that Jian Wushuang has begun to take it seriously. This sword is the cornerstone of the entire unparalleled swordsmanship, and its majesty is its original meaning. Zhong Tian, who had originally come from the gun, saw this scene and hurriedly turned the offense into a defense, and responded with all his strength. Hundreds of pillars tore the void, headed by Zhong Tian, exploded in the camp of immortal territory, and then teared open a hole. Full-hearted rush. Chen Qing roared with his real sword high. UU read books www.ukanshu.com and then moved forward. Holding a soft sword, Xiao Dejuan kept harvesting Yangxianyuan who dared to approach. Chuanqiu and Kui Jing are shoulder to shoulder, and they are blessed with 8-armed puppets, which is also expanding Shanghai. Only Wei Lujia, who looked like a downright scholar, was quite struggling during the battle. He was surrounded by dangers several times, but he still clenched his teeth and walked towards the sword in front. The advantage of Xianyu is no longer, and it is forced to retreat at a speed that is visible to the naked eye. Several pieces of armor on Zhong Tian's body have been damaged after a sword of Xinghe Lake. And Jian Wushuang did not pause at all. He held an invisible sword and swept up into the void, entangled with him. Swords of unparalleled sword are magnificent, wide open and wide. One sword is better than one sword. Every sword he cut was like a sword embryo, full of sparks and great momentum. Chapter 4859. Under such an offensive, Zhong Tian could only be defended, even unable to counterattack. He could only lift his spear flat, blocking the sword-to-sword cut. His heart suffocated. In just 10 breaths, Jian Wushuang slashed more than 36,000 times, causing Zhong Qianping's palm to raise his spear to be dripped with shocking blood. He said quietly, "Release the fairy style, otherwise in your current situation, I am afraid that self-preservation is extremely difficult." Zhong Tian's eyes fluctuated, and the breath of his body suddenly changed from the previous calmness to a sharp edge. Thousands of Kai Jinhuamang burst out of his hand with a golden gun, with great majesty and pressure. Jian Wushuang was forced to retreat, and his eyes were dignified. "I don't know how many years have passed since I realized the fairy style, but I still shoot 3,000 times a day, in order that all possible things will happen today. In a word, blood and hatred are in the body, no matter who is blocking, there is only one end." Zhong Tian seemed to merge with the spear in his hand, almost swallowing the void of the pillar. At this moment, the order of the avenues flowing in the void began to collapse. "My fairy style is called a bitter wheel. You are not the first Yangxian you saw, and you will never be the last. At the same time, I also have a hunch that if you end up under my fairy style will be melted, and I will enter the realm of Dian Fairy." Jian Wushuang's eyebrows were slightly raised, and the invisible sword was tilted in his hand. "It's useless to say more, come on." The red-golden stanchion rose up into the sky, dispelling the violent wind in the void. Zhong Tian was dancing wildly behind his back, the golden gun was clear in his hand, and a golden wheel over 1,000,000 feet high emerged from his back and distributed. "There is a strong and untouchable breath. All Yangxian and Dingxiu, back away," Jian Wushuang shouted loudly. The Yangxian who were still fighting each other did not hesitate and immediately retreated. At this moment, Chen Qing's eyes were dignified, and he could feel that Zhong Tian's blow might not even allow him to respond. "Jian Wushuang, is it okay?" All Yangxian and Dingxiu looked at this scene solemnly. This way of determining the outcome, no matter who wins or loses, it is very important. Bitter wheel, cover the sky. With Zhong Tian's binge drinking, the light wheel with a height of over 1,000,000 feet behind him sank and fell, and the void collapsed, and all the top repairs and even Yangxian were shocked to see this scene. This side light wheel is really too vast. Almost at the moment of coming, it covers 1,000,000 miles of void. Even if it is Yangxian under this immortal style, I am afraid that all will be extinct. Jian Wushuang stood in situ, looking at the light wheel facing down, his eyes calm. Buzz. The hum of Hong Zhongdalu resounded in the void, and the red-golden huamang swallowed everything almost instantly. The pupil of the little emperor who had receded far away suddenly shrank, and the subconscious would fly forward. Chen Qing grabbed him. "Little emperor, calm down, brother Jian will not fall like this. Even if it is impossible to fall like this, but he is too risky to do so." Xiao Dejuan took a deep breath, then stared forward. 1,000,000 feet of suffering wheel halo completely swallowed and covered the sword Wushuang, while Zhong Tian's arm shuddered and threw his spear into the void. In a flash, 100,000 spears were differentiated, each of them buzzing bursts. "Go with," he shouted. 100,000 lances smashed the void and stabbed from all directions to the center of Kowloon. In the opinion of all top repairs, the ending has become a foregone conclusion. Including Zhong Tian, the master of immortal territory, all smiled at this moment. But this smile didn't show up completely, so it froze. At the next moment, the real shadow of 100,000 lances suddenly stopped on the bitter wheel, even harder to score a half. Immediately afterwards, a real image of over 1,000,000 feet appeared. It was a real image of long hair floating, and the eyes were full of superb power. A 7-point galaxy in the eyebrows was slowly flowing, and the perseverance was magnificent again. "That's the true shadow of Jian Wushuang, the true shadow of me. Every breathing and breathing seems to be a reincarnation in the universe, and his appearance is like the concrete embodiment of the rules and order of heaven and earth, which makes Yangxian feel the oppression." Then, the magnificent real shadow slowly stretched out his palm, lightly brushing the understatement, and 100,000 lances suspended in the void were all destroyed. And the bitter wheel that restrained Jian Wushuang's true shadow could not bear the pressure, so as to make up for the cracks. With a dazzling to ultimate light bursting, the painful wheel is broken. All Yang Xian and Ding Xiu covered their eyes at this moment. When Hua Mang dissipated, everything was bleak. The huge real shadow looked down, and there was no joy or sorrow in the eyes that exuded divine power. In his palm, a red gold spear like a toothpick had broken into two halves. All the surviving Yang Xian and Ding Xiu who survived in immortal territory subconsciously stepped back, and all faced like ashes. Zhong Tian's complexion changed again and again, which was originally impossible for a lifetime, and his proud cheeks also had no blood color. Then he suddenly vomited a large mouth of thick blood. The natal gold gun was destroyed, almost related to his fairy source, and was directly hit by unimaginable damage. The true shadow without me slowly dissipated, and the sword walked down into the air. At this moment, all Yang Xian and Ding Xiu in the Sixth Heaven realm were in full swing. The little emperor raised his soft sword in his hand, and his voice spread throughout the void. Jian Wushuang looked at Zhong Tian, who was so desperate, and threw a spear that had been broken into two in front of him. "You guys have lost." Zhong Tian stared at him, staring blankly, without speaking. At this time, a middle-aged Yang Xian next to him suddenly took a step and stared. "No, I didn't lose. Shenyu has been formed since the emperor established the Darciu has a deep background, superior heavenly path, and lower fuse, and has not been destroyed after several disasters. Even if it is lost today, it will surely be able to never get rid of it." Looking at the middle-aged Yang Xian who was still in a hurry, and Jian Wushuang could not help but look at it a bit. After saying that, the middle-aged Yang Xian helped Zhong Tian and said softly, "Sect Master, after the rest of the old brothers broke up for you, you immediately go back to the Fairyland and ask the Emperor for help. Life is still there, and everything has a picture." Zhong Tian looked at him, and before he spoke, he was pushed directly by his luck, and it was in the fairy array in the void, and disappeared. After doing all this, the middle-aged Yang Xian was also quite indifferent, withdrawing the real sword from the waist, and facing the sword without fear. "What's your name?" "I'm going to die immediately, even if I tell you, Song Xin." "Yes, I will remember you." Jian Wushuang nodded, an invisible sword quietly condensed in his hand. Chapter 4860. The head of the Yang Xian named Song Xin was finally cut off by Jian Wushuang, and even the Xianyuan was broken. This is like the final beginning, marking the vengeance of the celestial domain Tianzong, which ultimately failed completely. A total of 72 immortals came from the immortal realm, none of them survived, and all of them died. With the destruction of the immortal cultivators, all the top repairmen from the immortal domain also fled, rushing to flee into the teleporting immortal formation. The shattered void was covered with broken corpses and dripping blood. Standing in front of the immortal formation, Jian Wushuang stopped moving forward. Xiao Dejuan, who was stained with blood, came to his side, his chest undulating. Chen Qing, Chun Qiu, Kui Jing, Wei Liujia and others also arrived, all in a panic. Xiao Dejuan looked at Jian Wushuang who was standing still, and he had already realized something in his heart. After a while, he whispered, "Brother Jian, it was not my intention to step down on the immortal domain, but after Zhong Tian returns, he will inevitably cast his clan to the young man for correction. By then, I am afraid that the six-day realm will be the same as the fate of northern Jiangxianzhou. The beginning of this battle means that there is absolutely no possibility of a good end." After a long while, Jian Wushuang said, "Let's go." The teleporting immortal array built by the celestial domain Tianzong can transmit tens of thousands of top repairs at a time and is extremely stable. When the remaining Shenyu top repairers fled back to the Shenyu embarrassedly, they didn't know that a complete destruction was also quietly coming. As the first Yang Xian from the six-day realm set foot in the Fairyland, the cold-blooded killing began. Blood and fire erupted in the Fairyland that spanned nearly 10 super-universes. Countless creatures were directly crushed into powder under the hands of the immortals. The continental plate was destroyed, mountains and rivers were cut across. The dark clouds were in the sky, and the rain came suddenly. There are nearly 10 super-universes, including nearly 100 continental plates, and each seat surface is a world. And under the influence of this war, everything is shattering. Chen Qing held a true sword in his hand and completely destroyed a heaven with his own power. But Chuanqiu, Kui Jing, and Wei Liujia did not make a move, but stood quietly behind Zhen Wushuang. The entire Shenyu Tianzong was destroyed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Sitting on a towering sacred mountain in the clouds, there is a quiet hall, which is the most mysterious place in the entire celestial sect of the immortal territory, and the dojo of the entire sect. But right now, it is already chaotic. Sect Master, hurry up, let's leave and go to the Second Highness. Leave the Green Hills, don't worry about no firewood. Instead of coexisting and dying in this same fairyland, it is better to leave as soon as possible and make plan. In some dim halls, more than a dozen elders Yangxian looked anxious and worried, talking about the figure lying halfway in the hall. That figure is exactly Zhong Tian, who fled back to the fairyland. At this moment, he seemed to be old to another state, with his eyelids drooping. After a long time, he said in a hoarse voice, "You all go first, I will be there later." All the elders stopped talking, and looked at Zhong Tian alike, and a little uncertain. "Let's all go, it's too late if you don't go. The sect master. I'll go ahead and stand up for you." When the dim hall returned to silence, Zhong Tianzai slowly raised his eyelids, and then looked outside the hall. There were 6 body shapes condensed, and then slowly stepped into the hall. Jian Wushuang and Xiao Dejuan walked in front side by side, and finally stood in front of him. A sneer flashed in his eyes. "I really didn't expect that the son of the dignified emperor would kill a party of the immortal territory heavenly sect to such a situation. It is indeed a must. All of this is just your own fault. You have to think about what happened on this day when you fight me. But is the price reasonable? It's too heavy, you shouldn't destroy my entire fairyland." Zhong Tian said desperately, "I am destroying the Xianyuan now, and changing the fairyland to save it, how about?" Xiao Dijun slowly squatted down, staring at him, saying every word, "You must die. As for Shenyu, I will make it a non-threatening existence." Zhong Tian's figure trembled, and then closed his eyes as if admitting his fate. "Young Master Yang, you remember what I said, one day, you will inevitably follow my mistake." Jian Wushuang slowly turned around and walked outside the hall, not watching this scene again. Zhong Tian, the lord of a generation of celestial sect, understands the source of immortality by himself, and his body is gone. Xiao Dijun straightened up, then turned around, looking at Jian Wushuang who was leaving. A complex color flashed deep in his eyes. Under the dispatch of nearly 40 evangelists and countless ancestor-level Dingxiu, the celestial sect of the immortal territory, which encompasses nearly 10 celestial regions, has become a dead place and no longer constitutes any threat. Walking in the scorched earth, Jian Wushuang didn't say a word. Just when they were about to leave, they suddenly ran out of a ruined wall and a half-large figure. She shivered, but she still stood firmly in front of Jian Wushuang. "Is it? Did you ruin this place? Did you kill my dad?" Chen Qinggang wanted to wave his hand to disperse this gray-headed little girl, but was stopped by Jian Wushuang. Then he bent over slightly, looked at the little girl who tried to keep the tears in his eyes from falling, and asked, "What is your name?" The little girl took a half-step back, sniffed hard, and said, "I won't tell you, I will be killed as soon as I tell you." Jian Wushuang smiled slightly, and then said, "Then you have to remember clearly. My name is Jian Wushuang. If you want to avenge all this today, just find me." After he finished speaking, Chen Qing took a few people and left the fairyland that had become scorched earth. Standing among the ruined walls, the little girl looked at Jian Wushuang's back without blinking, as if to imprint all his characteristics into her mind. "Jian Wushuang, I took it down, I will kill you myself in the future." After the immortal formation of Unicom's 6-day realm was destroyed, this battle also came to an end. More than 60 people who participated in the battle under the Emperor Sovereign only lost nearly 20 places. This is a big victory. Compared with the Celestial Sect, the loss is almost negligible. And this big victory was almost so quick with Jian Wushuang's own power. According to Xiao Dijun's previous plan, the 100 Yangxian he sat down will almost be destroyed, and he will not be able to crush the celestial domain Tianzong. But everything, since Jian Wushuang joined the battle, has changed drastically. He almost wiped out a place of great trouble with the smallest loss, which is undoubtedly worse for young Master Ju who is far away. In the palace, above the eaves, Xiao Dejuan sat on the glazed tiles, his eyes wondering where he was looking. Behind him, a thin purple robe appeared soon. My big companion, this time the result is very good, but I am a little worried. Chapter 4861. The thin purple robe said, "Are you worried? Zhen Wushuang will grow up to the day when he will even be terrified." Xiao Dijun nodded, "Yes, and I feel that that day will come soon. His Royal Highness, there is no need to worry. Although I have met him only a few times so far, you must know that we have been together for decades. His temperament and character, I can't guess it, but I can see that he is a tyrant, and he is very indifferent to the search for the Emperor's luck. He seems to have a certain purpose, like a hurried passerby, let anyone I can't guess him." At this point, the thin purple robe slowly pulled down his hood, revealing a gully face. He is an existence capable of reversing any situation, and his presence will only benefit His Royal Highness. "I understand," Xiao Dijun nodded slightly, "but I have a feeling that he is very mysterious, as if he didn't know where he came from. If you know his origins and weaknesses, that would be great." "Nothing. His Royal Highness, this is not the time to calculate this. Since he has promised to help you win the throne, you must do as much as possible during this time." The thin purple robe leaned slightly. Now that the 5 emperors have fallen from the ink, and the second emperor has been more than half destroyed, the situation has changed. "I think the other emperors will do something next." "They?" There was a sneer at the corner of Xiao Dijun's mouth. "It's just a mob." "One more thing." "What's the matter?" "Emperor Zhen Wuyang sent envoys some time ago to invite the rest of the emperors to go to the heavenly court to the birthday banquet." "Birthday banquet? Didn't the emperor never miss his birthday? Why is it just over this year?" "Maybe it's because of the death of the 5 emperors." "How long is there?" 3 years later. "Then get ready to go to heaven again." From the broken fairyland Tianzong, back to Shaogushan, Zhen Wushuang sat down in the middle of the square in front of the palace. He faintly touched the second fairy style. There are 7 types of fairy style guidance from Shizhu. The first type is called a little mountain and river. As for the second form, I realized it not long ago in the immortal style of Zhongtian. The true shadow, which is more than 1 million feet high, is very unique from the treasure that Zhen Wushuang condenses when he releases the sword intent of Xinghe Lake. When Zhen Wushuang released the true shadow, the immortal body was ethereal and turned into nothing, but his spiritual consciousness was still clear and coexisted with the true shadow. Moreover, under the blessing of the true shadow state, any of his skills has reached a level of detachment. Therefore, after Zhen Wushuang rehearsed the second immortal style tens of thousands of times in the divine consciousness, he called the second immortal style the true shadow of no self. Now that he holds 2 immortal styles in his hand, his strength is even more unfathomable, and he even has the idea of fighting against a higher level Dayan Immortal. However, the Dayan Immortal in the entire Daisy domain has become one of the few after that battle. I am afraid that only Dayan Immortal can be found under the true Wuyang seat. After consolidating ancestral skills, kendo, and immortal style, Zhen Wushuang re-enlightened sitting. Now that Demission has been destroyed more than half, it is no different from climbing to the sky to find Yinling again, and the piece of sky-shaped bone armor in her hand, I am afraid that I will not see it again for a long time. At present, the sword does not hold 2 pieces of bone armor with the sky pattern in both hands, but he cannot decipher the ciphertext above. He planned to travel around Wanyu shortly after this, preparing to find a powerful person who could decipher the ciphertext on the bone armor of the Tianzi pattern. And shortly after he sat down, the whole Xiao Gutian and the main hall trembled. Although it was extremely subtle, everyone was aware of it. Lying on the top of the eaves, Chen Qing was asleep, turned over and jumped down. Several people in spring and autumn rushed out from the hall. What happened? Kui Jing tightened his belt, his face solemn. Damn it, maybe something happened again in the next 3 days. Chen Qing scratched his head. What can happen in the next 3 days? Could it be that the collapse can't be done? Chun Chiu frowned, and he had no good feelings for the next 3 days, and even wished to destroy it directly. Chen Qing did not hear the displeasure in his words, and explained, "The situation that will occur in the next 3 days is much more serious than the collapse. Every time, many prisoners will die, which is very difficult." Jian Wushuang slowly opened his eyes, then looked at Chen Qing and asked, "What will happen?" When Chen Qing heard this, he did not hide his words. "Black qi, the black qi that can swallow the power, the deeper the black mountain spar is mined, the black qi will be unearthed. This kind of black energy can swallow the power. Even if Yangxian is infected with this kind of black energy, he can only sit and wait to die. It is terrifying. But fortunately, not much black energy has been dug up. As long as it is sealed in time, there is nothing to do. However, this situation has never happened before, and I don't know what has happened in the past few years. Everything has become more and more unstable." Jian Wushuang didn't think too much, and was ready to continue to sit and meditate. But then, several streamer-like figures entered Xiao Gutian and came directly in front of him. The leader was Xiao Dejuan. His expression slightly changed. "Brother Jian, there are some situations in the next 3 days, I want to invite you to find out." Chen Qing was also anxious. "Is the situation happening again in the next 3 days? Didn't I remember that it calmed down a few days ago?" Xiao Dijun shook his head. "This time, I am afraid it is the most dangerous one." "Then let's go together," Chen Qing said, "before flying out first." Jian Wushuang nodded, "Then go take a look." Xiao Dijun nodded and then led the way. At this time, Chun Qiu also came behind Jian Wushuang and whispered, "I will go too. This time, you don't want to go, just keep Xianyuan more stable." Jian Wushuang patted him on the shoulder, then walked away. Soaring out of Shaogushan, under the guidance of Xiao Dijun, he began to rush down for 3 days. The 6-day realm that Xiao Dijun is in charge of, the entire next 3 days are all Haishan's realm, and countless prisoners are responsible for the continuous mining of Haishan Spa. When he first entered Dianhuan, Jian Wushuang was trapped, and was somehow a prisoner for a long time, so he was extremely repelled for the next 3 days. This time, what happened was the first horizon of the next 3 days. From the mouth of the little emperor, I learned that the first heaven at this moment has undergone tremendous changes, and almost all the prisoners and supervisors responsible for mining the spa have been swallowed by the black energy gushing from the abyss, turning the entire first heaven domain into a dead domain with no survivors. Chapter 4862. Chen Qing's complexion was extremely serious, and he naturally knew the seriousness of this. The black energy that broke out in the Black Mountain several times before was solved by him. Each time the black energy was extremely small, the most one time, it only swallowed the prisoners and supervisors in the entire Black Mountain. But this time, the eruption of black energy actually swallowed all the creatures in the entire heaven. This shows the severity of the situation. With this in mind, he reminded Jian Wushuangdao, "Brother Sword, those black qi is extremely easy to contaminate the power. Once it is contaminated, it is difficult to remove, so when you get to the place, try not to use the power if you can." Jian Wushuang nodded slightly, looking forward through the void, the heaven plane that faintly reveals dark luck. Stepping into the first heaven of the next 3 days, an indescribable breath of death rushed toward his face. Looking around, there are many mountains and mountains, like the undulating black mountain that stretches to the invisible end. The black air, like a dark cloud, swallowed every inch of the space, hazy and chaotic to the extreme. The 4 body shapes all converged and walked forward step by step. Both Xiao Dejuan and Chen Qing showed an unbearable expression, as if they were overwhelmed by some unknown force. But Jian Wushuang's face was indifferent, as if he hadn't been affected in any way. Walking in the soaring sky, the breath of death is lingering. The bones of prisoners everywhere are all lying on the ground, and they all turn into black dust when the wind blows, which is extremely strange. Little monarch, it seems that this first heavenly realm is indeed completely destroyed. Chen Qingning looked forward and said, "In this way, it would be extremely troublesome to find the source." The little emperor who was walking in the front did not speak. He also felt the trouble. This was the first time he encountered this situation. Since he took over the Black Mountain realm in the next 3 days, there hasn't been any bad sign since he took over at a young age, and it has continued to this day. But in the last few Chinese years, black energy began to appear in the Montenegrin realm, and the scope of each appearance was not large, at most spreading to a Montenegro. But today, the black energy that didn't know where it started swallowed a whole heaven, and none of the creatures here survived. At this time, Jen Wushuang, who had not spoken, said, "I think, just along the direction of the prisoners' bodies on the ground, you should be able to find the source." Xiao Dijun looked at the prisoner's corpse lying on the ground, like a looming road, stretching far away. "It's not advisable to stay here for a long time. Let's make a quick fight," he said, before taking the lead. Because he couldn't use his power, he moved slowly. And the more you move forward, shocking scenes appear one after another. The corpses of the dead prisoners are piled up like a mountain, almost spreading far away. Moreover, the death of these prisoners was very strange. All the clothes on their bodies disappeared, and the exposed bodies became dry bones densely covered with black threads. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. What exactly is the so-called black energy that would have such an impact on living beings? You must know that the prisoners trapped in the Black Mountain are at least half ancestral top repairers. Even if the chain between their necks trapped them, they did not make any resistance moves, which is too weird. Could it be that this black energy has a restraining effect on Yanli? He slowly stretched out his palm, stroking the black energy flowing in the void. The black chi is cold, with a kind of palpitating aura. It seems that it does not seem to belong to the product of this heaven. Retracting their hearts, they kept passing through a mountain of corpses piled up by prisoners' bones. When stepping past the tallest corpse mountain, a black abyss like a deep prison appeared in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Endless black air spit out from the vast and endless abyss. Even if it is Yangxian, standing in front of this abyss has a very small feeling. The black mountains that had already collapsed were leaning into the abyss, and the abyss was still expanding and stretching, and the prisoners' corpses also fell into it. When is there such an abyss in this first heaven? Chen Qing asked in shock. Xiao Dijun frowned. It seems that all the black energy is gushing from the depths of this collapsed underground. What shall we do next? Chen Qing asked again. I am afraid that there are only a few of us in such a deep abyss, and it is impossible to reseal it. In the end, Xiao Dijun shook his head disappointedly. It can only be so, let's go back now. The weirdness of the first heaven territory in these 3 days was destroyed, so that he did not dare to check it out again. After making a decision, they are ready to leave. But as he turned around, there was a palpitating heart that made Jian Wushuang subconsciously turn his head back. The black energy that was originally thick in the air quietly turned into a vortex and began to rotate slowly. Run, he suddenly shouted, reminding. But everything was already too late. Almost at the same time that Jian Wushuang's voice fell, the vortex condensed by the black energy turned crazy. The towering black mountains suddenly broke apart and were sucked into them by the crazy vortex. And Jian Wushuang and others were swallowed by that unimaginable suction for the first time. The dark clouds were connected to the ground, and the entire deadly first heaven seemed to fall under the black abyss prison. Being caught in the vortex, Jian Wushuang only felt a whirl of heaven and earth, and he was extremely passive because he could not run his energy. The condition of the little emperor, the thin purple robe, and Chen Qing were also not much better. They were almost swallowed and disappeared without a trace. Suffocating the dizziness, Jian Wushuang opened his eyes in the vortex. Looking around, there is endless darkness. Ukanshu. This surging vortex kept falling, and the entire black abyss seemed to never end, without knowing where it led. I don't know how long it took. When a hard and cold touch came from under him, everything seemed to return to silence. The vortex slowly dissipated, leaving only the silent sound around. Oh, his grandma's, Lao Tzu's waist. Chen Qing's painful curses resounded under the abyss. The unspeakable reverberation resembled a trembling 9-day booby thunder, blasting in the abyss. Quiet. Xiao Dijun's voice immediately sounded. Standing in this black source, Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with golden light. Although there was an unknown extremely dark world in front of him, he could still clearly see every inch of the ground and every inch of space. Under this abyss, it is completely composed of strange and irregular rocks that are completely dark and cold. Chapter 4863. And what is strange is that on these irregular and weird rocks, there are still unknown weeds with tall legs, which are endless. It is as if this was the tip of an iceberg of a world, a buried world. Although it was extremely dark under this abyss, the little emperors quickly noticed their existence and began to move closer to Jian Wushuang. God, where is this place? Are all the black mountains on the ground suspended? Chen Qing looked at the scene in front of him, somewhat shocked. It seems that this place used to be a world on the earth. I don't know why, it was buried in the heart of the earth. Xiao Dijun said analytically. Jian Wushuang didn't speak, he squatted down and touched a weed slightly with his hand, instantly turning it into a fluffy ash. Chen Qing said again, weirdness is a bit weird, but fortunately, there is no threat. As long as we don't release Yanli, we can always leave here. At this time, the thin purple robe, who had not spoken, said, the road when I came here is gone. Everyone looked up subconsciously, and sure enough, there was a strange stone dome above their heads, not an upward exit. Little Emperor then looked at Jian Wushuang. Brother Jian, do you have any opinion? Go ahead. Jian Wushuang looked forward and said in a deep voice. A group of 4 people, walking under this abyss. The ancient, desolate silence, weird to the extreme. Jian Wushuang walked in the forefront, his eyes becoming more solemn. He felt the throbbing in his heart inexplicably, as if something was about to happen. The weird rocks underfoot are undulating and messy. Because he was walking in the forefront, he soon understood why the throbbing in his heart had started. I saw that in front of the hazy black air, one side collapsed in the center of 100 miles of rock, kneeling down, a strange figure. Even Jian Wushuang couldn't see the figure clearly. As a result, the first heaven in the next 3 days became the source of the dead zone, and the infinite black energy that covered the sky and the sun surged from the front. Xiao Dijun and the others also saw the kneeling figure for the first time. Their complexions were extremely solemn. In such an underground world that has not been sealed since when, seeing this scene, I am afraid that no one will take it lightly. That guy, isn't it the source of the disaster for the entire first domain? Chen Qing whispered. Xiao Dijun narrowed his eyes and said, if it is true, then we can take this opportunity to seal it off. Don't move rashly, I'm afraid that figure will never be as calm as it is now. Jian Wushuang reminded. How could it be a dead existence that can provoke such a majestic and weird black spirit? The next moment, seemingly to confirm Jian Wushuang's thoughts, a nuanced sound of bone cracks resounded under this abyss. With the sound of this sound, the figure that was kneeling on the rocky ground suddenly trembled. Jian Wushuang's eyes condensed, and he hurriedly made Xiao Dijun and the others retreat. No way, can this come alive too? Chen Qing was a little dumbfounded, watching this scene in disbelief. With the continuous resounding of bone cracks, the figure who was buried under the abyss, how many years of endless years, actually stood up slowly. It was a figure covered with hideous wounds, and the armor made of unknown material was completely damaged, revealing a body that had long been depleted of flesh and blood. 2 black lights shot out from the visor on his head. Facing such a dead creature, even Jian Wushuang felt his heart palpitations. Because he found that the Yanli in his body shuddered in an incredible way when facing this dead creature. This is too weird. Could it be that this silent, dead creature was also an emperor during his lifetime, was beheaded by Zhen Wuyang and buried here? But Jian Wushuang quickly rejected this idea. He had already been in close contact with the 4 emperors, and he naturally knew the unique luck of the emperor. But at the moment, this creature does not have the emperor's luck, and there is not even a trace of the fluctuation of the power. All around him, only the horrible black energy was surging. He seemed to have awakened from Wang Gus's deep sleep, and the 2 black lights immediately locked Jian Wushuang several people. Then, the dead creature slowly raised an arm, and the broken palm squeezed hard. Suddenly, the void suddenly collapsed, and the indescribable force squeezed in all directions. Except for Jian Wushuang, Xiao Dijun, the thin purple robe, Chen Qing and the 3 snorted at the same time, as if they had been severely injured, and the corners of their mouths overflowed with a ray of blood. Damn it, it really gives me energy. Chen Qing's aura was languid, but he didn't dare to release his strength to resist. Because that black energy's restraint on Yanli almost reached the point of incomprehension, As long as there is a trace of Yanli released, it will definitely be hit hard by retrieving the original wish. The prisoners and supervisors who have died are the best examples. In such a situation, only Jian Wushuang could turn the tide. The inability to apply Yanli is an unthinkable thing for Yangxian, because even the simplest urging of Xianyuan will consume Yanli. But Jian Wushuang was affected by this, and it was much smaller. Except for the two ancestral arts, and the Xian-style one-point mountain and river requires derivation, his Wushuang Kendo, Xingge Huhai sword intent, and the second celestial style of selfless true shadow, all do not need to be derived. Therefore, he immediately used the true shadow of the selflessness to bless himself to deal with the next situation. After only one blow hit Xiaodijun and the others, the dead creature took a step towards them. The extremely thick black qi was continuously absorbed by him, and then he repaired the hideous and terrifying wounds on his body. Jian Wushuang's heart moved, he cut directly with a sword. Xinghe Lake Haijianyi, the first release. The incomparable sword intent rose, swept across, illuminating the entire abyss for a moment, and then slashed towards the figure of the dead creature. The next moment, a scene that no one had expected appeared. The vast sword intent slashed in front of it, and it actually destroyed the body of the dead creature into two parts. Everything was too easy, as simple as Jian Wushuang didn't react, and his figure was scattered on the rocks. That's it. Chen Qing's eyes were a little dull. Is he vulnerable, or brother sword, you are too strong? Jian Wushuang slowly shook his head. He could feel that it was not that he was too strong, but that the dead creature was too vulnerable. He seems to be too old, as if through endless years, making himself extremely weak. Chapter 4864. The extremely rich black energy was still in a whirlpool shape, frantically pouring into the shattered figure that collapsed to the ground. Jian Wushuang and Xiaodijun looked at each other, then lifted their sword and stepped forward slowly. The shattered figure that had been cut in two was squirming and seemed to be slowly healing and repairing. Brother Jian, we must never let him recover again, Xiaodijun said in a cold voice, then drew out the soft sword from his waist, and after a sword nailed half of his body to the ground, he prevented his recovery. Chen Qing also stepped forward and said in shock, what kind of thing is this guy? Couldn't it be an immortal who fell on the battlefield for a long time? Jian Wushuang shook his head, and whispered softly, it will never be a fairy generation. Even if the source of the fairy is broken, the generation of the immortal that persists will have a generation of power fluctuations, but this one does not even have a trace of power fluctuations. That's really weird. Chen Qing scratched his head. Immediately, Jian Wushuang stared at the broken figure again. Because he was wearing a completely black and heavy visor, and he couldn't see his face, only two black rays of light projected from his eye sockets, with a certain shocking power. Inexplicably, Jian Wushuang subconsciously stretched out his palm, wanting to take off his visor. Brother Jian, Xiaodijun suddenly took his arm, be careful. He nodded, then slowly squatted down, reaching out his palm to touch the faceplate of the dead creature. The start was icy cold, and with the sound of a staggered bearing, the complicated and precise visor opened from the nose, and then revealed a face. To be precise, it is a well-preserved and determined face. No one thought that this body was about to turn into a dead soul with withered bones, and it still had such a face. With the unfolding of the complex and precise faceplate, the face of that determined and heroic fighter turned slightly, and finally looked at Jian Wushuang in front of him. At this glance, it seemed to cross the Huanggu Xinghe River, looking back in the long river of time. This glance shocked Jian Wushuang. For a long time, Jian Wushuang said softly, everything has passed, and now is no longer in the past. There was some movement on his resolute and heroic face. He opened his mouth and seemed to try very hard to say, why, in you, there is a familiar feeling. As this sound fell, his figure that had been cut in two quickly dissipated, turning into a fluffy ash and disappeared. The face that wrapped that firm and valiant made Jian Wushuang's figure tremble slightly when it was about to dissipate. Because, when the body of the necromancer finally disappeared, he murmured a word silently. You are not from Dian. Then his figure turned into fly ash with the turbulent black energy. The surging black air dissipated, and the entire unknown abyssal world began to collapse rapidly, and the stone dome above his head began to give birth to fine cracks. "Hurry up, this place is about to collapse," Xiao Dijun reminded in a deep voice. The abyss where there was no exit had also cracked a gap not far away. It was an exit. Now that the dark source that destroyed the first heaven in the next 3 days has been eliminated, naturally there is no need to stay here. Xiao Dijun and others are all ready to leave. Jian Wushuang also recovered from his thoughts. Finally, he looked at the place where the dead creatures disappeared, and suddenly saw a dark bead lying quietly under the visor. There was a movement in his heart, and he directly stretched out his hand and held it far away, and the black bead fell into his hand even with the visor. "Brother Sword, go, it won't last long here." Chen Qing's voice came from afar. "Here." After Jian Wushuang stuffed the black beads and visor into the Boyang bottle, he flew forward. Since the black energy has completely disappeared, it can naturally run its energy again. With the help of the descendants, the 4 descendants easily rose out of the abyss. When standing on the abyss again, Xiao Dijun breathed a sigh of relief without a trace. The source of the black energy that has soaked an entire universe is removed, and all crises are lifted. In the next time, the Black Mountain of the First Day Domain will definitely continue to mine. Looking at the Black Mountain community under the hazy misty sky, Jian Wushuang faintly felt that there were still many mysteries that had not been discovered or resolved. The originally tricky thing was solved easily. After leaving for the next 3 days and returning, Xiao Dijun immediately decided and ordered more than 10 Yangxians to drive into Xiaogutian with 20 carts of treasures, all of which were given to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang did not refuse, and directly let Chen Qing and Kui Jing take over, leaving the good things in the hall, and all the remaining treasures were taken to the Wangu Wushuang auction house. After returning to Xiaogutian from the next 3 days, Jian Wushuang jumped directly onto the top of the eaves and began to think about the meaning of the dark source words. And not long after, the figure of the 3 emperors who had been silent for the first time appeared on their own initiative, all looking at Jian Wushuang with a rather solemn expression. "Little friend, this is no joke." Yang Jun, a tall and thin old man, spoke first, his face full of dignity and alertness. Daogong and Su he also nodded solemnly in agreement. "Ah, 3 seniors. What is it because of?" Jian Wushuang scratched his head and asked a little embarrassingly. Yang Jun didn't say much, and immediately stretched out his hand, and a dark object wrapped in rich and powerful force flew out of the Boyang bottle. "It's this thing. Where did you get it, little friend?" Yang Jun said seriously. Looking at the black bead that still exudes a weird aura, Jian Wushuang did not hide it, and immediately said what had happened in the next 3 days. "In the end," he said, "this black bead and that visor were all found from under the abyss. Could this thing have some influence on you?" Yang Jun nodded. "Not only is it influential, but more importantly, we have discovered that this kind of thing can erode God's consciousness and power, even us." A short sentence contained too much information, which shocked Jian Wushuang. Under the abyss, the seemingly vulnerable source of darkness, the black beads produced, can even eat away the Emperor's divine consciousness and power. The Emperor, the highest known master of Jian Wushuang at present, although he did not take the step of Dayan Immortal, even for the 9th rank Dayan Immortal, he was easily crushed, and he was the creator of a heavenly court. Even Uncle Yu under the seat of Emperor Zhen Wuyang can kill the 9 ranks Dayan Immortal with 1 finger, let alone the unimaginable existence of the Emperor. Even though the 3 emperors of Yang Jun, Dao Gong, and Su He were destroyed, they were still the real emperors. At the moment, the black beads can cause real damage to the Emperor, which is really incredible. This thing has a great impact on us. Dao Gong, who has been silent, also added at this moment. Chapter 4865. Su He pushed him over, dissatisfied. "I always like to pretend to be a god, it's me. This thing, from the current point of view, actually has little impact on us, but it will be hard to say in the future. It is like an unstable factor, and no one knows what changes will happen to it in a certain day. We have just inspected this bead carefully. It's very weird, so we can't guess what it is. Therefore, if we can throw it away, we should throw it away as soon as possible to avoid severe damage in the future." Jian Wushuang frowned when he heard this. This black bead was extremely jealous of the emperor, and it was able to kill the prisoners in the entire universe with his own power. It seemed to be an ominous thing. Little friend, Yang Jun also took a step forward at this moment. We must take precautions as soon as possible. I have an intuition that this kind of thing can never be as simple as it seems. With the reminder of the three emperors, Jian Wushuang also realized the seriousness of this. In this case, it can only be destroyed. As he said, he directly reached out to grasp the floating black beads. No. Three emperors shouted in shock at the same time, as if something terrible would happen in the next moment. But the imaginary scene did not appear. Jian Wu held the black beads in both hands, without any discomfort, looking at him three with a look of confusion. The little friend, listen to me, you must not release the power, this thing is extremely restrained, and if you don't pay attention, it will burn your body. Yang Jun said nervously. But Jian Wushuang still looked puzzled. After the black bead with weird light fell into his hands, it was like a pot of boiling hot water was frozen in ice. Nothing unusual, it seems, nothing happened. How could it be okay? The three emperors looked at each other, some of them couldn't believe the scene. Could this bead be eaten by someone? Su He was a little uncertain. Dao Gong also said, anyway, you should dispose of this thing as soon as possible. But you must remember not to throw it away at will, so as not to let the soul suffer. After reminding and mentioning something, Sandy Jun returned to the Boyang bottle. Jian Wushuang nodded, and then carefully examined this strange black bead, trying to find something from it. But apart from the full strength of the surrounding air being completely swallowed by the black beads, there was no other abnormality. The black beads in his opponent were still foggy, but they still found shining points. According to the characteristics of this black bead, if in future battles, when facing a stronger opponent, can the black be released to devour the opponent's power, will it achieve unexpected results? Jian Wushuang pinched his chin and thought. At this moment, Xiao Dijun set foot on Shaogushan again. After sensing his breath, he stuffed the black beads into his arms, then stood up to meet him. The little emperor, who put on a plain uniform, came to him and said, Brother Jian, what happened in the next 3 days? If you don't help me, I'm afraid there will be a big trouble. Gongzi Yang thanked him again, and the little gift he prepared earlier. I hope Brother Jian will not dislike it. It's okay, it's just a matter of effort. Jian Wushuang waved his hand, and said again, what is the little emperor looking for? Can't you come to Brother Jian to have a heart-to-heart talk? Xiao Dijun smiled bitterly. He shrugged, of course you can. Go sit in the temple together. Little Emperor hesitated for a moment, and finally said, in fact, Brother Jian, I am here, and I do have important matters to discuss. In less than 3 years, it is my Emperor's birthday. Then I would like to invite Brother Jian to go to the heaven with me again. Feast. Of course. Jian Wushuang nodded. He breathed a sigh of relief. Brother Jian, young Master Yang, thanks again. After a moment of contemplation, Jian Wushuang asked, going to Heavenly Court this time, can I enter Daoshu Pavilion that day? Of course there is no problem, Xiao Dijun said. Brother Jian wants to go there to find bone armor. Jian Wushuang didn't hide it. Yes, instead of looking aimlessly, it's better to go there and try your luck. Okay, after those 3 years, I am looking forward to Brother Jian's arrival. Xiao Dijun arched his hands again. Back in the hall, Di Qing had awakened from his deep sleep, stretched out to the front of Jian Wushuang, and said, looking at your complexion, it seems that you are always on the go, and it's time to rest. Jian Wushuang shook his head, it's okay, I'm going to leave soon, so you will pay more attention to it. Diqing raised his brows, then Ryoshizi Xiao Dijun really arranged your itinerary fully. Would you like me to teach him something for you? He couldn't laugh or cry, teach him what to do, and you can rest here with peace of mind, and other things will not trouble you. Wei Liujia also stepped forward and said, Master Jian, I'll go with you, and we can take care of each other. No, there won't be any twists and turns in the itinerary this time. If there are too many people, things will go wrong. Jian Wushuang shook his head, and then he looked at the empty hall. Chen Qing, Chun Qiu, and Kui Jing have been busy at the Wangu Wushuang auction house, but there is one less one in this palace. Liujia, have you seen Zhao Ting? He asked. You mean Zhao Tianguan? I saw her a few days ago, and she disappeared in a blink of an eye. Wei Liujia was also a little uncertain, but if you want to come, Zhao Qianguan shouldn't go far. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. If Wei Liujia said it would be okay, I was afraid that Zhao Ting would return to Detushan and informed the son of the situation here. Zhao Ting, the mysterious woman, was the former Thattian official next to Gongzi Jiao, and her actions gave people a feeling of incomprehensibility. Even Jian Wushuang could not figure out any thoughts of her now. Therefore, she is still extremely worried. Just when he was about to take advantage of this time to explore the traces of Zhao Ting, She came back quietly. The scars all over her body have not been fully recovered. It seems that she had experienced a battle not long ago. After returning to the hall, she went straight back to her bedroom without talking to anyone. Jian Wushuang didn't have much to say, but he winked towards Diqing. Di Qingxin understood it, and said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Don't worry, no one can turn the waves with me." With a flick of his fingers in 3 years, compared to the first visit to the heavenly court, this second time seemed much more low-key. Except for some close confidants, the entire 6-day realm was in a calm state, and it seemed that the news this time had not been publicized. Without riding the imperial court, without Yangxian opening the way, everything was quiet to the extreme. There are only 2 wearing plain uniforms, like the world's sun who travels through 10,000 domains, stepping on the void and flowing clouds, sweeping towards the boundless front. Chapter 4866. 6-day realm is definitely not a good place in the entire Big Division, and even some superworlds are much better than it. Not to mention, the North Changxianzhu of the late Emperor Sun Mo, and the Second Emperor Sun's rebellion, these are the mainland of Xianzhu Fuse. Moreover, the 6-day realm is located in a corner, and its location is also extremely bad. It is the farthest one from the heavens in the heavens of the 7 emperors. Jian Wushuang guessed that the reason Xiaodijun chose the 6-day realm was probably because of the uncountable resources in the next 3 days. And Jian Wushuang did not guess wrong. There was a big reason Xiaodijun chose the 6-day realm. It was indeed because of the countless resources. It was precisely these resources that allowed him to breathe amidst the secret struggle between the emperor and his son. As the most remote area, even at the speed of Yangxian, it would take nearly a year to reach it. This time, there were no longer any interceptions, and it passed smoothly. With the increasing number of super-universes, the derivation between the universes became more and more condensed, and the heaven where the Emperor Zhen Wuyang was located had arrived. Looking at the heavenly realm that was still extremely magnificent, Jian Wushuang and Xiao Dejuan stepped into it. Compared with the first heavenly banquet, this time the heaven was much more deserted, including the heavenly guards were extremely cold. And all this must be because of the death of the son of Mo. At the same time Jian Wushuang was also thinking in his heart, not long after the 5th Emperor Sun Mo Cai died, Zhen Wuyang definitely would not call the other 6 sons to the heaven to celebrate his birthday at this point in time. Definitely, following the reason of birthday, summoning the 6 sons to discuss some things. Passing through the 9-party heaven realm, stepping on the sky, Jian Wushuang and Xiao Dejuan soon arrived in front of the heaven. The heavenly gate of the heavenly court was opened, and the boy was brought into the heavenly court by the lead boy. The other 5 emperors also arrived one after another and entered the heavenly court one after another. The curling celestial cloud rose up in the heaven, a bit more solemn, and a bit less peaceful. Emperor Zhen Wuyang still sits on the throne, and Uncle Yu stands behind him without any change. But the 99 seats on both sides of the heavenly court were empty at this moment, and the elders who had accompanied Zhen Wuyang to this day did not appear. The huge heaven is silent. The little emperor came to the heaven first, and after bowing to Zhen Wuyang, he stepped forward and sat on the side of the emperor's throne. Then, Gongzi Jiao, Gongzi Yu, Gongzi Hua, and the emperor also entered the heavenly court one after another, and after all bowed honestly, they took their respective Yangxian cronies to sit in their own seats. Seeing this scene, none of the 6 emperors dared to say a word. All of them bowed their heads, sitting with their eyes and noses and hearts. Where is the birthday celebration? It is almost the same to mourn the 5 emperors Sun Mo. For a long time, Zhen Wuyang, who was sitting on the throne, said, "Yang, how long has it been since the last meeting?" Xiao Dijun immediately replied, "Back to the emperor, less than 30 years. It's less than 30 years, just a moment. Zhen Wuyang looked tired. In less than 30 years, so many things have happened. I have never had a birthday. Today, I used this pretext to let you over, but it was just to get together for a while. In less than 30 years, such drastic changes have taken place, so I am in a daze to realize that between father and son, we have almost never been alone. Mo Er's departure made me want to make up for it, but I regret it. Zhen Wuyang slowly got up, his eyes slowly swept across the emperors. Mo Er is dead, I don't want to see any of you again, he will repeat his mistakes. Remember, you are brothers, not blood feuds. All the emperors' complexions changed slightly at this moment, but they quickly returned to normal. But the changes on their faces did not escape Jian Wushuang's observation. Among these emperors, the most fluctuating complexion was not the Sun Jiao, but the Sun Yu of the three emperors. He appeared very flustered, and soon returned to calm again. For a moment, the son of the four emperors, Sun Qian, flashed a gloating look in his eyes. The son of the sixth emperor, Sun Hua, and the son of the seventh emperor, Sun Lin were a little sad. As for the mastermind assassin, Gongzi Jiao, there was no expression at all, and even the sadness in his eyes from time to time, which made Jian Wushuang have some opinions on him. After the drastic changes that have taken place before, combined with the current emotional changes of Gongzi Jiao, this is undoubtedly an extremely terrifying opponent. In the future, he will inevitably have a fierce battle with Xiao Dijuan. And if that day comes, I'm afraid it's time for this big division to reshuffle the cards. He sat back on the emperor seat and patted the warm jade handrail lightly. This emperor position can be done by anyone, but the emperor's luck is not something everyone can have. There is only one emperor in this big division. Withdrawing his gaze, Zhen Wuyang seemed to be a lot older at this moment. If you say it all, you all need to do it yourself. All the emperors gave their hands. I follow the emperor's teachings. However, Emperor Zhen Wuyang immediately said, I call you here this time, and there is one more thing to tell you. I need to leave the Daisy domain for a while, so you can do it for yourself. All the emperors were startled, obviously a little disbelief. You know, since the establishment of the Great Siyu and the moment when the heavenly court is settled, Emperor Zhen Wuyang has never left the Big Siyu since then, and it has not been known how many years. Right now, he left Da Siyu at this point in time, leaving all the emperors unpredictable. Father, where are you going? Little Emperor asked. An unknown place. Zhen Wuyang's deep gaze looked into the distance, not knowing what he was thinking. This training in the name of birthdays lasted for a very short period of time, and even ended without even half a day. This is something Jian Wushuang didn't expect. Zhen Wuyang and Uncle Yu left first. For a time, in the entire heavenly court, only 6 emperors and their cronies looked at each other. Jian Wushuang sat motionless in the same place, but at least 2 eyes were locked on him. One gaze is Gongzi Jiao, and the other is Gongzi Yu. He remained calm, and returned with a calm look. Whether in the great heaven or in the former heavenly court of the 6 Crow emperors, Jian Wushuang had his face transformed, and even his body shape had been adjusted, almost completely different from his original self. Hugh said it was them, and even Chuanqiu, who had been around for the longest time, couldn't tell. Regarding this point, Jian Wushuang is extremely certain. Sure enough, the young man corrected the sharp gaze that was as sharp as a knife, and soon disappeared, and then revealed a touch of doubt that was uncertain. Chapter 4867. But he still cast his gaze at Jian Wushuang from time to time, as if trying to find any clues. He always felt that Jian Wushuang had seen him somewhere else, and it had something to do with certain things. And there is Gong Ziyu who has this feeling. After being beaten up in the heavenly court that he had found accidentally, and almost killed him, young Master Yu returned to his own heaven and lay down until today, only to barely recover. And after looking at Jian Wushuang, he also had a faint illusion of déjà vu. But Jian Wushuang's concealment was so perfect that he didn't even use the iconic immortal style. Even if the 2 of them were sitting in his arms, they absolutely could not detect any clues. However, he was still a little worried that he would show clues if he stayed, so he looked at Xiao Dijun. Xiao Dijun understood, got up and prepared to leave. At this moment, Gongzi Jiao suddenly got up and smiled with a signature gentle smile. Big brother, just come in such a hurry and leave in a hurry, don't you want to reminisce about the old with a few younger brothers? Xiao Dijun's figure was slightly startled, and then stopped in place and said in a cold voice, "Don't call me big brother." Hearing this, the son shrugged indifferently. It seems that His Royal Highness, Little Emperor, really doesn't care about the feelings of the same line. Shameless, he said coldly, and then prepared to leave with Jian Wushuang. Hey, I said, if you want to go, you can leave the gift for the Emperor, the son said in a loud voice, obviously not planning to let him leave. Little Emperor stopped his figure, turned around and sneered, "What are you, dare to ask me for a gift, even if I am preparing, will you dare to take over?" After that, he turned around and left. The son's expression turned gloomy, almost dripping from his eyes. Trash things, sooner or later you will kneel down and confess. Leaving the heavenly court, Xiao Dijun took Jian Wushuang straight to the Tiandao Book Pavilion, and continued to search for the existence of the bone armor with the Tianzi pattern. This search is more than dozens of days. To Ling Jian Wushuang's disappointment, this time the Tianzi patterned bone armor did not appear again. He and Xiao Dijun searched almost every corner of the Tiandao Book Pavilion, but there was no trace. It seems that this kind of thing can only be obtained by chance in the future. He sighed and looked at the sky-shaped bone armor in his hand. Little Emperor said, "Even if you can't find other dominoes for now, you might as well try to break the ciphertext of the dominoes on hand now." Jian Wushuang's brow jumped, and the method Xiao Dijun said was indeed a good idea. This big division is so big that even if you can't find the bone armor of the sky, it must be easier to find one that can understand this kind of ciphertext. Immediately, he asked, "Do you know anyone who is proficient in this way?" After thinking about it for a while, Xiao Dijun said, "I don't know, but there are not a few immortal masters in Darciu who are proficient in strange ways. In my cognition, there should be a master craftsman who is proficient in this way, maybe it can be solved. The ciphertext on this domino. Then what is the name of this divine craftsman and where does he live?" Jian Wushuang was a little anxious. After all, the ciphertext on the bones and armors of the day is too important to him. Regarding Shen Yi, Larozun, the news is likely to be on this. The Little Emperor did not sell too much. There are more than 1,000 famous craftsmen in the big division, but there are only a few who can be called master craftsmen. Among these more than 10 master craftsmen, one of them likes to delve into the art of gold and ancient prophesies and act style. They are all weird master craftsmen. I had some intersections with him in the early years of China, and they should give me a little bit of face. This master craftsman is named Shu Tuo. He lives in Sansuan Mountain and has the ability to reach the sky and the earth. Shu Tuo. Jian Wushuang murmured and repeated again, feeling that the name was a bit familiar. Immediately, he suddenly thought that he had heard the name of the master craftsman Shu Tuo as early as the master's correction. At that time, the first master of the blessed land under the seat of the Sun Jiao, he once presented a handle of avoiding the clear wish cast by the craftsman Shu Tuo, which is very ingenious. Jian Wushuang looked at Xiao Dijun and said, "It seems that after this time, I will go to Sansuan Mountain to find Shu Tuo." He nodded, "I will go with you then." It was a pity that he couldn't find the bone armor with the heavenly character pattern in the Tiandao Book Pavilion anymore, but I got another news, which also pointed out a new way for Jian Wushuang. Stepping out of the Tiandao Book Pavilion, Xiao Dijun stood under a green tree, and drew a cloud of celestial clouds in his hand, turning into a crane. "This is my emperor's first birthday. No matter what, I have to send a gift." He seemed to be talking to Jian Wushuang, or to a crane, and then placed a delicate small box on the back of the crane. "Go, I must hurry to send the gift before my emperor leaves Darciu." With the departure of the crane, Xiao Dijun put on a gesture of inviting, "Brother Jian, let me walk around here." Jian Wushuang nodded and traveled in the heaven together. Since my emperor has demarcated the boundary of the Great Division and established the heavenly court, he has not left the Great Division again, but he has left at this time now, and brought us together to warn him. Can Brother Jian see my emperor's intentions? Little Emperor looked at him and asked. Jian Wushuang pondered for a moment, and then said, "The purpose and the possibility of doing this, I think there are two. The first possibility is that he uses the excuse of leaving to test whether you brothers will really let go. Fight each other with hands and feet. As for the second possibility, he really left Darciu for a period of time because of important things, not a short period of time, and will take away all the elders, so he has no time to worry about what will happen to Darciu in the future. Come to warn you about the matter. After listening to Xiao Dijun, he took a deep breath and his eyes suddenly became extremely solemn. Brother Jian, once it is the second possibility, then the fight between us will probably begin at this moment. Jian Wushuang raised his brow slightly. If it is the first possibility, wouldn't it be in the arms of your emperor? I'm afraid this time, it will only be the second possibility, Xiao Dijun said in a condensed voice. The battle between us seems to be much faster than imagined. He said, looking at Jian Wushuang, my strength was originally relatively weak among the other 6 emperors. Whether or not to fight in the future, improving strength will be an urgent matter. I can't wait any longer. Otherwise, the fate of young Master Mo will definitely be my fate. Little Dejuan took a deep breath and solemnly said, Brother Jian, if there is a way, do you want to be in the position of Dian Immortal? Please remember the domain name of the book's first publication. Mobile version reading URL. Chapter 4868. A short sentence, like the 9 heavens' thunder, exploded in Jian Wushuang's mind. The position of Dian Immortal, once entered this realm, is the real beginning. Feel the luck of the emperor, compete for the throne, everything is in the realm of Dian Fairy. Similarly, if you want to be promoted to Dian Immortal, the difficulty of cultivating is far beyond imagination. This is no longer something that can be made in years, but it needs illusory luck and opportunity to add to it. It is possible to break through to that state. Countless immortals have spent their endless lives, but they can only be trapped in despair in the realm of immortals. The most typical example is Chen Qing. Even though he has understood the immortal style, he still hasn't touched that barrier, so that breaking through Dian Immortal is an unimaginable luxury. Seeing him being silent, Xiao Dijuan repeated it again, Brother Jian, do you want to enter the realm of Dian Immortal? The reason why Jian Wushuang didn't answer was because if he agreed, there would be too much involvement. In layman's terms, it is to eat people's mouth softly and take people's hands softly. This is an unbreakable truth. Dian Immortal realm cannot be promoted so easily. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. As long as you nod your head, Brother Jian, I'm 99% sure that you will be able to ascend the place of Dian Immortal. Little Dejuan said seriously. Seeing the doubt in his eyes, Xiao Dijun's eyes flashed with sadness, and then said, the reason why I am so sure is because a veteran under the emperor's seat turned his lifelong perception into inheritance. In the heaven realm, waiting for Yu Yangxian to accept its inheritance. Because my immortal body is defective and unable to practice, I can only spend my life in the realm of evolving immortals, and naturally I cannot obtain that inheritance. But now, I can't wait any longer. There must be a Dian Immortal in the 6-day realm to be able to keep it in the next fight. He said, reaching out and tightly holding Jian Wushuang's arm. I try my best. Jian Wushuang finally responded. Xiao Dijun smiled as if relieved, okay, then I will do my best to wish Brother Jian to be promoted to the position of Dian Immortal. Leaving from the heavenly court, the two of them went straight back to the 6-day realm. The former veteran under the seat of Zhen Wuyang was the peak of the 9th rank, the realm of Dian Immortal, and spent his life with true Wuyang in all the heavens. Even the same state Dian Immortal was worried about falling away when facing him. I learned from the little emperor that such a Dian Immortal had died voluntarily. He voluntarily dispersed to the fairy source, shattered the fairy body, leaving only the inheritance left in the 6-day realm. But just before the death, he said quietly, and after it was really boring, he fell. Listening to his constant introduction, a gradually plump and fleshy image of Dian Immortal appeared in Jian Wushuang's mind. He even wanted to meet this very character Dian Immortal. The 9th rank Dian Immortal whose name is unknown, his inheritance was left in the 3rd heaven in the next 3 days, and was never known to outsiders, only Xiao Dijun knew about it. After another year of returning home, Jian Wushuang finally returned to the 6-day realm. Under Xiao Dijun's guidance, The two of them went straight to the third heaven domain of the next 3 days without stopping. As the enchantment ripples around his body, the sight of the third heaven came into his eyes. The sea, the Black Sea, the endless Black Sea. As the night is condensed on the earth, the completely black color seems to be able to absorb any light, making the entire third heaven a little chaotic. Along with the endless Black Sea, there are towering black mountains leaning in this Black Sea. Strange, dead, and deserted are the main colors here. Here is the heritage of the veteran. Xiaodijun pointed to the front and said, since the third heaven is almost entirely covered by the Black Sea, it has become difficult to mine the Black Mountain spar. So after this heaven was taken over by me, no one else has set foot. Stay the same until today. Jian Wushuang nodded. Where will his inheritance be? It looks like it's in the Mingyuan continent. I have forgotten it after too long. Let's check it out first. Xiaodijun said with a slightly embarrassed expression. After he finished speaking, he waved his hand and threw out a clear light, which turned into a wooden boat and stood still in the Black Sea. This miasma easily affects our minds. Let's go by boat and be safer. After the two stepped into the wooden boat spontaneously broke through the sea and drove forward. Before that veteran decided to pass on all his insights to me before he decided to die, I was born with flaws, unable to practice cultivation, and unable to possess immortal roots, so naturally I couldn't get his inheritance. Sitting in the wooden boat, Xiaodijun calmly told Jian Wushuang, even with a slight smile. You are the only one who knows that I am flawed, apart from my big companion and those so-called brothers. Jian Wushuang looked at him. Why do you want to tell me this? You can keep outsiders from knowing. Of course I am trying my best to hide this secret. After all, the fact that the great emperor of Zhenwuyang is a trash that cannot be practiced will spread, and the impact will be very bad. But I want to confide these words that are about to rot in my heart to others, Xiaodijun said with a smile. Brother Jian, you are also the only friend I want to confide in. Thank you, I will always keep this secret. Jian Wushuang nodded and said solemnly. He said again, this secret is my biggest weakness. Anyone who knows it can easily hit me hard. I can't practice. Even if I am immortal, even if I master the immortal style, I can't conceal the fact that there is no immortal root and no immortal source. Everything I have now is only given to me by my emperor with a secret method, so the immortality is my limit. Even in this lifetime, there is absolutely no possibility of breakthrough. I thought I would fall in this time of assassination, but your arrival, Brother Jian, gave me hope. Xiaodijun solemnly said, so, in any case, I will also welcome you to the position of Dian Immortal within this period of time. Jian Wushuang didn't speak, he was thinking about a problem just now. From Xiaodijun's performance and mouth, it was known that his fairy body did have a lot of defects, and he was born unable to condense the roots of the fairy, the source of the fairy. This is a fatal place. In layman's terms, it is simply a waste body that is inherently unable to practice. But at the same time, what makes Jian Wushuang somewhat uncomprehending is that such a waste body has achieved the position of evolving the immortal and mastered the immortal style, which is simply incredible. Based on this, he was thinking about whether he could open up another road, a road of practice that is very different from ordinary practice. Please remember the domain name of the book's first publication. Mobile version reading URL. Chapter 4869. It's just that the creation of another cultivation system, for Jian Wushuang now, is tantamount to a fantasy. It is something that can't be imagined at all, and even the starting source can't be realized. However, there was a path of reverse cultivation ahead that allowed Jian Wushuang to think about this boldly. What is Dianhuan's cultivation system complete, and can he realize a different path from before? The wooden boat traveled extremely fast, breaking through the water in this Black Sea. The black water in the Black Sea is more viscous, just like some kind of mucus, and can feel a lot of resistance. The so-called Mingyuan continent is the only continent in the third celestial domain, and it is also very likely to be the inheritance of the elder who volunteered to fall. With the continuous advance, the black mountains in the Black Sea gradually decreased, and the sea area began to become as smooth as a mirror. The waters of Rumo are connected to the sky of chaos, with a flat boat in the middle breaking through the water. When land appeared in the eyes, it indicated that the only piece of Mingyuan continent would arrive. One step from the wooden boat to the land, the continent made of jagged rocks came into view. This endless continent seems to have also been infiltrated by black water, becoming black and rough, and there are hideous and convex rocks everywhere. Even the tall weeds are black. The inheritance should be here. Although he disperses to Xianyuan, he must still have obsessions here. By then I will personally guide it, and it will definitely succeed. Xiao Dijun said in a concrete, while taking the lead in moving forward. The entire Mingyuan continent was extremely vast, but compared with the inheritance perception of a 9th-rank Great Yang Immortal, it was fundamentally inferior. So the first time he set foot on the mainland, Jian Wushuang felt a majestic and exuberant aura of strength. He didn't even need to look for Xiao Dijun, he locked a place. It was a place of heaven and danger, and there were 8 black mountains that looked like swords and swords. In the very center of the mountain, there is a halo of quintessence to the extreme. It seems to be there, let's go. Xiao Dijun said, soaring forward. Under the mountain and river, Jian Wushuang came to the Yanli halo in an instant. The light beams of various colors are intertwined in it, and the countless rainbow shadows are in the beginning of the cycle, and the brilliance that is only revealed seems to be engulfing the atmosphere of ruining the world. Xiao Dijun took a deep breath and said, "It seems that this is the inheritance and perception of the elder. Brother Jian, can you feel the difference? It's a feeling beyond the realm of evolving immortals." Jian Wushuang affirmed. With Di Qing, the rank 9 Dian immortal by his side, Jian Wushuang had some familiarity and understanding of the realm of Dian immortal. At the moment, this group of Yanli halo, he can be sure that it is not weaker than Diqing. In this case, I am waiting for the good news from Brother Jian. Xiao Dijun smiled. However, Jian Wushuang didn't have much excitement, because he felt that this seemed a bit too hasty. He is just the pinnacle of immortal Yang, but he wants to comprehend the inheritance of sentiment that controls the 9th rank Great Yang Immortal, which spans nearly a big realm, and I am afraid that some accidents will happen. But now the arrow is on the line and I have to send it. Seeing that group of Yanli light group exuding brilliance, Jian Wushuang slowly stretched out his palm to fit it, and at this moment, a strange aura in that group of Yanli light made him suddenly vigilant. That kind of strange breath showed a black color, although it was only a flash, it still made Jian Wushuang want to take back his palm subconsciously. The sudden change occurred, almost at the same time when he retracted his palm, the Yanli light ball deformed. Suddenly more than 10 black and gorgeous lights were swept out, and it was attached to his arm, and then dragged it into the light ball. The whole process didn't even have a breath time, and Jian Wushuang disappeared without a trace. The little emperor on the side also reacted, reaching out to grab him, but was dragged in by the huge force. The gang wind raged, and the black sea in the entire third heaven was restless, and set off a huge wave that was 10,000 feet high. Jian Wushuang only felt a burst of uncontrollable great power, dragging him into a certain area, and then the scene in front of him also changed drastically. The rocks at the foot are no longer, replaced by a vast square like a chessboard. And right in front of this vast square is a magnificent and depressing giant hall. Jian was double-faced color is extremely solemn, and all the breath radiating here is dark and cold, full of a sense of killing. This is not like the place where the inheritance is located, but rather like the Shura field where a party is fighting. Xiao Dijun was also involved here, full of doubts. Brother Jian, where is this place? He walked quickly to Jian Wushuang and asked. Jian Wushuang whispered, "We are all involved in the Yanli light group, and it is very likely that we are in a certain area now." Little Emperor said uncertainly, "Could it be in the cave sky left by the veteran? If this is really the veteran's cave sky realm, I am afraid he is definitely not a good person." Jian Wushuang's eyes gradually became solemn. This is not a place of inheritance, but a trap. Trap? He was startled. No, when the elder was still alive, he treated me extremely well, and even asked the emperor to be my big companion. He would never harm me. You don't know if it hurts or not, how the immediate priority is to leave here unharmed. Jian Wushuang said, already operating secretly. Right here, the magnificent and depressing hall suddenly opened the door, and a hurricane rose from it. The pitch-black hurricane rolled over in an instant, bringing a sensational trend. Jian Wushuang also used ancestral skills in an instant. The heavenly gate of the power world rises magnificently, like hundreds of rounds of big sun descending from the heavenly gate. A huge finger across the sky also directly blocked the dark hurricane. But just blocked it for a moment, and it fell apart. Go! Jian Wushuang shouted, but it was too late, and the unstoppable hurricane swept directly. However, the imaginary pain did not strike, and the hurricane quietly stopped in front of Jian Wushuang, no further progress. Jian Wushuang quickly retreated more than 10 feet before staring. The hurricane that stopped was several meters high, and after the layers of ashes peeled off, a black robe figure gradually condensed. It was an old man in a black robe with extremely black beard and hair. His face was pale and withered, and his eyes had no whites in them, just like 2 black pills, very strange. Who are you who dare to come here and disturb my slumber? It was as if the voices converging from all directions were low to the extreme, and seemed to be bloodthirsty. Please remember the domain name of the book's first publication. Mobile version reading URL. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.